Joining us now, the A-Team author, radio talk show host, Fox News contributor Monica Crowley, author, columnist for the Association of Mature Adults, Jedediah Bila, Pulitzer Prize-winning editorial cartoonist, senior editor, Investors Business Daily. Michael Ramirez, good to have you all with us. Jedediah, today a 5 o'clock meeting following Speaker Boehner's news conference, but they wouldn't talk about what they discussed. What's your reaction? Are we going to have a fiscal cliff resolution?
Boehner needs to keep this really simple and pass a bill in the House that represents what he stands for. I don't understand why he's negotiating so much with President Obama when President Obama is becoming less flexible on the issues, not more flexible on the issues.
Back in July, they passed the bill.
Right now, he needs to say, look, I'm not going to be negotiating with myself anymore. I'm not going to be negotiating with President Obama. This is what we stand for. We want to keep these tax rates on all of Americans the same. We don't want to raise taxes on anyone. Here's why. The problem is that he's whipping out all of these charts now, saying, now I want to talk about spending. You should have been talking about spending to begin with. This shouldn't be an argument about taxes. This should be an argument about spending.
You agree, Michael?
I agree. I mean, look at this administration, the hypocrisy behind them, when they've added $5.3 trillion to the national debt in record time, in 4 years. And they come up with a plan that doesn't even include real dramatic cuts in spending, but rather increases in spending. And imagine if that $1.6 trillion in revenue was fed back into the private market and what kind of innovations and job creation that it would create. I mean, that's the bottom line. How do you get sustained economic growth and revenue from growth, not from tax revenue? You're going to get $82 billion. It doesn't even touch the deficit.
Monica, I think Boehner stepped up big time today. I think this is the clearest his message has been. I think with the visual aid that he had showing that the real problem is spending, which we've been saying incessantly from the beginning, I think he took I really think he sees the high ground in this negotiation.
I hope he meant it today, Lou. I mean, when you look at the last 4 years, President Obama has generally talked a good game about wanting to work with Republicans, cross the aisle, deal with entitlements and so on. And every time the Republicans run toward him like eager little puppies ready to negotiate in good faith, and every single time the president pulls the rug out at the very end.
Breaking our hearts.
Breaking our hearts, of course. Look, this time around, coming immediately after the election, I think Boehner feels like he doesn't hold any cards. I was a little bit heartened today to hear what he had to say, as you point out. Really hope he means it, and I hope, as Jedediah says, he is willing to stick to his guns. He's already put nearly $800 billion of revenue on the table. Now he's going to be talking about spending. Jedediah's right. It's a little late in the game to be doing that. But I think this president wants to go over the cliff. I think he wants all of the rates to go up. I think he wants the defense sequester, and I think he's ready to take the nation over.
And to that, I would say this. Take a look at this cartoon. Michael Ramirez, if you will. There it is. I love this. This car belonging, obviously, to a union member supporter. Amongst my favorite bumper stickers, of course, would be "Proud Liberal, Your Money, Our Choice." I love that. If you can see that there, it is terrific. Pro-choice, just not for workers. We'll be taking that up with the A-Team here in just moments. We're coming right back. Talking about Michael's latest editorial cartoon. I love that, Michael. Pro-choice, but not for workers, as it follows the festivities in Lansing, Michigan, where a conservative comedian, Steve Crowder, was, well, they got physical with him. I don't want to say violence when it comes to union thuggery. I mean, I just cannot understand the behavior that isn't reported on the principal, if you will, broadcast networks. Only ABC even alluded to violence during that demonstration.
Right, and we saw much worse in the other states as well. And you know, it's because the union basically operates not as a real democracy, but as a tyrannical dictatorship where they impose their philosophical. Well, we know a substantial proportion of the money that union members pay goes to their political causes, which are always liberal and progressive, and they don't have a good record to stand on.
Michael, that's an overstatement. Only 93% of the money raised by the public employee unions goes to Democrats. Only 93%. That hyperbolic language, Michael, I think it's incredible. I don't think most people knew that until this week. that it's that stunning a large amount.
And remember, the same networks that ignored what just happened to Steven Crowder spent month after month trying to find violence in the Tea Party so that they could have something to report that would besmirch them. Now all of a sudden we have legitimate case of violence, and you have it on video, and they refuse to acknowledge that it's happening. It's amazing to me.
And it wasn't just to Steven Crowder. It was to the hot dog vendor who had his entire livelihood stomped on. You had people in a tent with Americans for Prosperity. The tent was torn down by these union thugs. And the reason it's not covered, except by Fox and Fox Business and maybe a few other outlets, but the mainstream media doesn't cover it, is because you're dealing with a very corrupt, incestuous relationship between the unions, the Democratic Party, and the media. They're all on the same ideological page, and they all protect each other.
Right. It's a matter of the media trying to insulate the people they support from exposure. Right. And we've seen that not only in the cases of the union, but PolitiFact came out and said that Romney's lie was the biggest lie of the year. I could name about a dozen Obama lies that were far worse.
Well, we've got time. No.
You don't have that much time, Lou.
The idea that Susan Rice has dropped out of this contest for Secretary of State, as it's clear that Secretary of State Clinton is exiting. Is John Kerry, is that a great idea? Because talking about embarrassing moments at a confirmation hearing, his would, despite all the quote-unquote bipartisan goodwill, might have some very awkward moments for this president.
I think she would have been a bigger distraction right now.
No question about that.
But I think a lot of the comments he's made with respect to our troops, this is not going to be someone that folks on the right, that a lot of independents would embrace in this position, in a position of leadership. I think when people were talking about him with respect to the Secretary of Defense, I think a lot of those issues were coming up with respect to how he treated our troops quite poorly over the years in terms of his comments and whatnot. So I worry about him in that position, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I could tell you, editorial cartoonists across the nation are all doing standing ovations in the wave at the prospect of John Kerry being the nominee. And the sad thing is that he's probably a better choice than Susan Rice, which isn't saying much for the selection process.
And Monica, do you think that by the time his confirmation hearing begins, that we will see this transparent, open administration and its profound principled commitment to that transparency have revealed all there is to know about Benghazi?
Oh, yes, I think we can really hold out hope that that is going to happen. Look, elections have consequences, and so you're going to get a far-left liberal named John Kerry as Secretary of State, who, when he came back from Vietnam, threw the American troops, his fellow soldiers, under the bus to advance his own career, took his medals, Lou, and threw them back over the White House fence at President Nixon, disrespected the entire enterprise in Vietnam for his own interests. Look, there could be some embarrassing moments for him in this and for the president, but he will be confirmed.
All right. Thank you both.
You bet.
Thank you, Jedediah. Thank you, Monica. And